Hello, I'm Tina Hart from Hart Media. Welcome to a special panel from Wide Days in association with IQ magazine. This panel is part of the Wide Days convention, and it is pre-recorded, but please feel free to send comments and questions, and we will interact with those. Today on this panel, we have got some amazing people who put together Laura Marling's groundbreaking shows at the Union Chapel in June. First up, we've got Ric Salmon from ATC.
Hi, everyone.
Ric, hello. We have Pracownik from the Union Chapel.
Hi, everyone. Hi, how you doing?
We have Amy Oldham from DICE.
Hi, Tina.
Hi, Amy. And we've got Giorgio Testi from Pulse Films.
Hi, Tina. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone. So we're going to get the secrets, the gossip, the madness that happened to bring you the beautiful show. It is a groundbreaking, new working format. We're making money for the music makers and all their teams behind the scenes. It's really positive movement at this current time where live music is going through a bit of a bump, as are other industries. So we're really happy to share with you the knowledge of these brilliant people who brought you these really special shows. So just to recap quickly, early in June, Union Chapel and Ric at ATC Management got together, also with Amy from DICE and Giorgio from Pulse, to put together the show. So it's a pay-per-view ticketed live streaming format. There were two shows, one for UK and Europe and one for a North American audience, two separate shows. And tickets sold were over 6,000. So brilliant income for teams, artists, venue, and everyone. So we're going to reveal what made this work from management, rights, money, tickets, creative, and venue. We are going to pick the brains of our guest speakers. So we're going to start off with what happened before the show. If I can go to you, Ric, how did this idea first come about?
Thanks, Tina. And it's lovely to see everybody, the gang. Obviously, none of this would happen without these guys here, and also, of course, our dear Laura, who was just phenomenal for the event and trusted us with this slightly harebrained scheme that we came up with. But it's, as you say, it's evolved into something that we're really excited about, and that feels like it's beginning to solidify itself as a new format and a new model. And as you say, hopefully generating revenues in a sector at the moment that is obviously brutally challenged. I would just caveat this by saying, and I think it's important to say this, look, we're a management company and a live agency at ATC, and so we've been hit by both sides through the lockdown. I'm very conscious that we've got a number of months to go as an industry until we reach some sort of normalcy and equilibrium again. So there's this, we're slightly tinged with you couldn't call it guilt, but I certainly, we realize, of course, that we're going to talk very, excitedly about this model and this format, and stemming from the Laura show, and then the various other shows that we've done so far and that we have planned, which we are phenomenally excited about. But we are conscious, of course, that we're still living in a very difficult time for everybody. But let's just hope that this can shine a little bit of light and positivity on what has otherwise been a very dark time for our industry. So I hope everyone's kind of getting through it all right. I suppose the origin, the genesis of the idea, Brian, my partner, and I were chatting. I think it was literally the first weekend of lockdown, and we had just cancelled dozens of tours across the management and live ATC rosters, including a Nick Cave Arena tour and dozens and dozens of tours. And Laura being one of those, she had started a global, I think it was 48-day global tour. It was an acoustic only, a solo show, which we'd planned as part of a 2 or 3 year, strategy of live and shows and music releases, album releases. She was in Australia, had done the first 7 shows. There was a 2-week break between the end of the Australian leg and the beginning of the North American leg. And it was in that 2-week period that the lockdown started. So we managed to get her home safely, luckily, despite having to fly through Singapore to do it. And it was at that point that we realized, well, look, it was born out of necessity, really. It's like, Jesus, what are we going to do? How can we approach things in a slightly different way? What can we innovate, I guess? What can we change? Let's try and be super positive, I guess. Let's just try and find a solution. And the ultimate idea was, I suppose, from looking at everybody doing live stream performances from home, which, was well intentioned, and it was just, that was what everyone was trying to do in what was a very difficult situation. To us, it was great, but how can we do it? Let's call it properly. How can we make it look incredible? How can we make it a real experience? So we obviously talked about, well, let's do it from a venue, and then let's film it with multiple cameras. Let's make it look stunning. Let's make it look world class. So that was the genesis of the idea. But then, of course, we were thinking, well, how the hell do we pay for that? Do we do a brand partnership? Do we do a YouTube deal? Do we, so on and so forth? And then we, of course, thought, well, why don't we sell tickets? But then we stumbled over that because, of course, no one had ever really done that properly in the music industry. Pay-per-view is a common practice in other sectors: sport, films, obviously, comedy, fitness. But sport and films, obviously, it is now the only way of doing it, the common way of doing it, whether it's a one-off purchase like a boxing match or a football match, or if it's a subscription like a Netflix or whatever it might be, but ultimately paying for an event. So it was at that point that we, of course, thought of Dice, because we believe in their tech. We believe wholeheartedly in the way they approach doing things, and talked to them about what we were planning. They had started broadcasting and selling free tickets. Amy, you might touch on this when you speak in a minute, but for at the time, dozens of those early streaming shows, but not one presented, I suppose, as a proper ticketed live event. So it was very early days. We were all trying to work out what it was. There was no rules. It, of course, asks loads of questions, which we can touch on later, Tina, as you said, about rights and IP and sync and publishing and masters and a whole myriad of complications. But ultimately, we just thought, what, let's screw it. Let's just do it. Let's go. Let's put it up on sale. Let's see where it leads. We hadn't even approached Giorgio or Pulse at the time. In fact, Brett, I think we'd only really just said, okay, can we do it? And you were like, yeah, let's do it. I've got to work it out because I don't know how we can do it right now. All of our staff are furloughed, but we'll make it work. And kind of off we went. And it was a bit brave, frankly, either that or a bit stupid, but it worked out. And that was basically the background of it.
Amazing. And we'll just go over to Brett. What were the processes even that you had to go through before show day to get the venue ready and staff and whatnot?
Yeah, of course. So, as Rick has sort of like touched upon, like, we've gone from being like a fully operating and running venue to overnight just happened to cancel like an absolute swarm of shows. And, that had its own challenges in itself, looking to reschedule those shows and, how things are going to look in the future. So, and we'd always been sort of like interested in sort of like doing sort of like live streaming events sort of like prior to this. That was something that we discussed as a team. And then all of a sudden, we had this, Rick came to us with, that Laura Marling wanted to do this event at the chapel. So, like you said, it was just a case of, let's try and make this work. So, I mean, obviously the first thing that we had to, one of the biggest obstacles we had to come across was in the fact that how are we going to make this event happen and how are we going to do it, safely. So that was a process in itself. We had to speak to the council, who, fed back to us, any sort of like concerns they may have, and you know, what was required from us. But we were lucky as well that we were a bit ahead of the curve, because, you know, Union Chapel's such a unique venue. Yes, we do live shows, but, you know, one of the other things that we do is we've got the Margins project, which helps the homeless and those in need in Islington. So we'd been sort of like, you know, operating that with skeletal staff, operating sort of like drop-in services, and we'd already put together sort of like a safeguarding procedure. So we was able to sort of like mar that up with sort of like the risk assessments, and you know, take it to sort of like the local authorities. And we had obviously a lot of site visits with sort of like Pulse Media in terms of, you know, what was coming in and how we're going to operate things, you know, throughout the day. And, you know, we had to reroute the whole venue, one-way systems, you know, making sure everybody, you know, what equipment we needed in, sort of like PPE equipment, and yeah, sort of like all of that really. And then obviously we had the challenge as well of a lot of people and a lot of our staff who work within the events team were furloughed. So then we had to, you know, go through the process of sort of like bringing them back in for this event. So it was a real kind of, but everybody was so determined to sort of like make it work, and it just, you know, seemed really sort of like positive. You know, we've got a venue that's kind of, you know, not in use, and, you know, going back for that kind of first site visit, and, you know, walking around with sort of like Pulse, and you know, doing that site visit and speaking to Ric and that, and, you know, there were a lot of challenges, but it was very much, you know, everybody was really working collectively to overcome them, and yeah, you know, make this event work.
Sounds brilliant. Sounds challenging and new. Everything's kind of new, but also brilliant. And just for anyone who hasn't been to the Union Chapel, I was saying to Brett before this panel, I'm a Londoner, and it is one of my favourite music venues in London, if the whole world. So if you haven't dropped by, if they're going to have another stream show, I definitely recommend it. If you go into the pub in Islington somewhere, go and have a peek. There's usually gigs on, so when that comes back, I encourage you to get involved. And thank you, Brett. So we'll just move on to Amy. Amy, so ticketed online event. What does a ticket look like when it's like that?
Thankfully not paper, which is, you know, great. But yeah, I guess echoing a lot of what Ric was saying in terms of, you know, Laura was really the first marker of our proper production being marketed like a real show. About 12 weeks ago, we were inundated with the volume of shows coming across, not all the quality that great. But the thing that really made us realise that there was a market for paid for shows was the willingness from fans to donate their funds to watch shows, and also a lot of artists turning to free platforms to you know, provide content to their fans. So there was the supply and there was definitely the demand. And we tested the waters early with Lewis Capaldi on a kind of hybrid charity ticket, but also paid for, you know, low value ticket. And it was amazing to see the positive trends. So yeah, when we're having discussions with Ric, it was more about, look, here's the data to support that this is a great idea, and helping artists feel empowered not to have to turn to brand partners who, you know, often control the creative of the show, or to the big platforms who will control the rights. So it, you know, ticketed shows really do empower the artist, which is fantastic. In terms of what it looks like, it really mirrors exactly how we work in the live space, even down to the anticipation and how we market. So, you know, for us, it's really important that live streams aren't seen as the kind of nemesis of a live show. They absolutely do provide that kind of really magical, warm feeling, which Laura shows testimony to. So for us, the preamble to the show was really about connecting Laura directly with her fans. Dice has built its whole algorithm and world around discovery. So for us, it was about finding fans that have scanned Laura in their Spotify library, previously purchased tickets, and communicating with them really thoroughly the whole way through the journey, because a lot of fans haven't experienced this before as well. So it's not only new for the people who are producing it, but it's new in terms of how fans are accessing that experience. So for us, you know, fans come first, and the most important thing was making them realize that this was of great value, and that this isn't just a con or a rip-off, and that also that the content is different to what they experience for free online. So for us, the messaging is really, really key, and actually, you know, testimony to Ric and Pulse, because the, you know, the production was so well articulated in their marketing, so it felt very special from the off. You know, Nick Cave is doing a very similar thing in terms of giving little teasers of how incredibly special these shows are going to be. So it's all about education, really. It's educating artists to feel more empowered, and it's educating fans that there is real value. So the Laura Marling show, if you looked at Twitter, it was alive with fans saying that was the best, you know, 15 quid I've ever spent. So yeah, that's our kind of approach to the pre-experience.
Could I add a couple of things to that, Tina?
Sure thing.
So just to pick up a couple of points that Amy said. So one of the crucial decisions we identified, or one of the things we identified and then made a crucial decision on the back of it, was that to us, there's a kind of societal kind of behavioral change that needed to happen quite quickly and very clearly to enable people to identify the fact that this was something that was worthwhile paying for, and we unfortunately found ourselves in a place in the music industry for various reasons, none of them good, that audio-visual content ostensibly is now known to be free. You know, whether that's a music video on YouTube, or whether it's an artist doing something on one of their social channels, whether it's a live broadcast or if it's, you know, them posting something about themselves, everything is free ultimately. None of it makes anyone any money other than Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Google. You know, I'm being slightly cynical there, but I think we'll probably all agree, broadly speaking, that you know, we understand what we're talking about there. So the notion that something beautifully curated, beautifully performed, beautifully shot, and delivered in a you know, truly stunning and immersive way, the notion that can exist and that people will pay for it was one of the first challenges that we had to get our heads around, actually. And it feels second nature now, 4 or 5 months, you know, out down the line, having, you know, come up with the concept. But actually, it was quite a big thing. In fact, it was a very big thing. And as part of that process, we decided very early on that we didn't want to be a platform as such. We wanted to be I suppose a promoter. I don't want to call Drift a promoter, but I suppose we essentially are. We're a digital promoter. The point being that we wanted the user experience, the consumer experience, the fan experience to be the same as it is for a normal live show. And to us, that meant going to a reputable ticket platform like Dice and buying a concert ticket in the same way you do for a normal show. And then the only difference being, instead of going to the venue to watch the show, we used YouTube as the portal through which you watch the show. But again, from a behavioral perspective, we were confident that actually, as a fan, you just want to do 2 things that you're really, really used to doing: buying a ticket on Dice or whatever, and watching something on YouTube. And I think that was one of the key factors. Now, there are a lot of platforms out there of which we're not a platform. Again, you know, so we're not in competition with these people, but there's a lot of platforms out there that have built proprietary systems whereby everything is housed within its own ecosystem. You buy the ticket, you watch the stream, you interact, you know, so on and so forth, all within it. And there's dozens: Cadenza, Veeps, Stage It, you know, there's dozens and dozens. Our only issue with that was that actually it means quite a jump behaviorally from what we're used to doing for a normal live show. So I think that notion of it being an experience and there being some anticipation. I mean, Amy, you can talk about this, but the fan chatter before these events and immediately after them, it's literally like the anticipation and the come down from being a live show. You know, people get their glad rags on, they do almost kind of do their hair and makeup in a way. They, you know, they sit there with their girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, partner, whatever it is, and they get a bottle of wine out and they sit in bed or they sit on the sofa and they light candles. There were photos of people having decorated their rooms. I mean, it's really fucking cool. Now, it's not meant to replace live. We don't want it to. We're managers and agents. We all love going to a live show. But what we realized we ended up doing was creating a new format, because it isn't a live show, nor is it a music video. And this probably segues into what Gio can talk about, but it is creatively an entirely new approach. You know, taking the audience out of the room itself gives you a freedom and a flexibility and a creativity that you can never, ever normally have. So from that perspective, I believe it's an entirely innovative process. And it's all of those little things that come together to create the overall experience. And it's so bizarre, really, that we never did it as an industry before. But there was no necessity for it, I guess. But what it's done, what lockdown has bizarrely enabled us to do is to establish this, to you know, really deliver it as something that, you know, there's a lot of evidence now that it is real and it will exist beyond lockdown, because it is a new format in every way. And if anything, we're finding agents and labels coming to us saying that they feel it amplifies traditional, you know, album campaigns, traditional live tours. It's something that can really, it doesn't in any way cannibalize it. It assists, it helps. So we're really excited about that product, I suppose, the byproduct of that process.
Absolutely. And I think this show hopefully will serve to be one of many. It's just amazing that you could get together, you know, a budget and a team, assemble your Avengers kind of thing, to have such a high quality output. So to that, we'll just get into the last bit of pre-show. If we can go to Giorgio. So we've got the ticketing sorted, we've got some marketing, venues kind of happening. What were you up to before the show, and what were the creative and technical aspects that you had to get your head around before you were even in there on show day?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we have to remember this concert happened right in a special moment, right I would say towards the end, the lockdown, or when everybody started to have hopes. At least that's the way I was feeling. Like in May, I was in lockdown from first week of March, because I flew back from Milan when lockdown started here in Italy. So basically for 3 months, I never left like a block in Tufnell Park. I was always there. And during that time, I managed to do like a full-length documentary all from home. That was like full of live performance that I directed with artists at home with like computer camera or iPhone. And then I did 2 other music videos, again, with the artists, the other side of the world, with me directing with camera. So I was a little bit fed up with this style of filming. Of course, as a director, especially when I do live music, I enjoy using cameras in a way that can make some sort of difference. I really like when people, you watch a live show on TV, it's very rare that you would comment on the ways it's captured. It's all about the artist. So normally I try to show that there is a director without, of course, it's always about adding more to the artist. It's not about making sure that I look cool because I did the right camera movement. So having said that, when I was first approached for this show, it felt like, I mean, it was a dream in that moment, because finally, first of all, I could leave Tufnell Park because I had to go to Islington. That is only a mile away from where I was living at that time. But finally, I was seeing human beings again, and finally, I could film live music in the way I normally like, but actually this time was even better. For me, there are concerts where side show and the venue and the audience, and other ones where I'm very selfish in the way that I want to film it in a way as if I'm in the first row, as I used to do when I was a kid, that I would show up like 15 hours before the show and I would be right in front of the artist, right there, because I didn't want to have anyone giving me any distraction. So this show, of course, belongs to the second things that I like. So the ones where I just want to see the artist. I just want to be close to the artist. Plus, it felt very much in line with the fact that we were seeing connections with other people. So I wanted to get, I guess, the audience feeling. First of all, I wasn't trying to create something as a to substitute a normal live show with the audience. It was a different thing from the start, and I agree with what Ric said, because it proves that this can go on forever, even after when we forget about COVID. This can be a format that we can continue doing even when we start going back to concert. But so I wanted to do something different, but mostly I wanted to feel the audience right there next to the artist. So basically we approached the concept of the filming as if we were doing, it was in between like theater and cinema, the way we were thinking, right? So trying to get the camera techniques and even like the type of cameras that you would use for a movie, but also with the timing of the shots that normally you don't experience in movie unless it's like some old movies from the 60s where there is a lot of like long continuous shots. So I wanted to do the long continuous shot and make you feel like you are there, especially because this is the type of thing that you cannot do with all the artists. You gotta have the right artist, and of course she was perfect with this. She sings perfectly. She looks like an angel. In that venue with the right lights, it was gonna be a magic thing from start to end. So yeah, we had a few chats. We had a Zoom call, in fact, with Laura. We both agreed that this was gonna be the right approach. We went down to the venue. We started. The good thing also, I wasn't meant to stick to the normal plans. So I love Union Chapel, but of course, if I'm filming a gig at the Union Chapel with an audience, I'm happy to have the artist on the stage where the stage is. But when I went there, instantly I wanted to do the artist in a different position, because the venue was as important as the artist for the filming in a way. So we needed to get the best background throughout the show, because of course we were not gonna cut to something else that wasn't the artist. So instantly I asked if it was possible to extend the stage and create some sort of like catwalk. Let's say it wasn't like a catwalk, it was just like an extension of the stage in the middle. And I asked Laura if she was happy to be singing looking the opposite side compared to what she was supposed to be looking if the audience was there. And in the end, it was funny that on the day it's been probably the most straightforward job that I ever done. Like, I think it was a combination of people finally getting together, and no one was stressed. No one, like, everybody was just happy. And then with the music, the right lights, the venue, it was the perfect atmosphere, and it really felt like we did something magic.
Well, he's paused. That's Italian internet for you, I think. There, Giorgio, you made it look incredibly easy. That was the point. You know, these aren't the cheapest shows to put on. There is a caveat with this, and of course, you're combining a live show budget with what is essentially a live TV event, and but it's worth it. It really is. And you have to be careful of the budgets and stuff, which we can come on to in a bit if you're interested. But the thing about working with someone like Gio, he's incredibly professional. He's incredibly gifted at what he does. he understood precisely what the philosophy of what we were trying to achieve with the creative and the narrative. And you're right, Gio, that the day, and Brett, to your point earlier, and I think this will be a thing that exists going forward in any case, but there's a magic when you're in a venue, whether it's a music venue or a non-traditional venue. I mean, essentially, the Union Chapel obviously being a church and a charity and a homeless hostel and everything else that it is ultimately a non-traditional venue in that sense. It's why, to your point, Tina, it's such a magical place. But the ability to film and capture something without an audience in an amazing space, it creates an energy that you don't get in any other format. I think we had the added bonus of the fact that it was the first day we all came out of our living rooms, and it was a bit rainy and cold that day, but it was just lovely to be with other people. Everyone was so pleased to be working at the end of the day, so there was a beautiful vibe in the room because of that. But Gio, you nailed the hell out of it, man. I mean, it looked edited. Most people that saw the show didn't believe that it was live. Everybody thought that we'd edited it in post because, well, frankly, Gio, you're so good at what you do, and the team was amazing. But it's having that kind of vision. It's having that kind of goal and ambition, because it is possible to achieve it, and it's possible to achieve it at a lower level as well. And we're beginning to do that with smaller budgets as well at the moment, as well as much bigger budgets with other shows. But it is possible to do it. And speaking as a manager, I've tried to encourage, and Tina, and you've been on a few of the calls with the MMF and stuff that we've been talking about this over the last few months, just encouraging people that it's an exciting thing to do, and it's an exciting thing to be a part of, and there are venues out there that are great to hire and that are desperate to put shows on with or without an audience, and it's just a case of innovating and not being frightened of just getting out there and doing things differently. I think.
Yeah, and whilst we're giving praise to our creative team, we want to give a special mention to sound engineer Dom Monks, who Laura specifically asked to come and work on it, and Giorgio and I were talking about it earlier. So Dom, you're amazing. Everyone behind the scenes, you're all amazing. Thank you for bringing everything together.
Yeah, and Giorgio, you're amazing. You're amazing Steadicam operator Simon, huh?
Yeah, Simon. Yeah.
Okay.
He on that.
Simon. Brilliant. And let's go back a tiny bit here. Rick, you touched on kind of budget economics. Can you talk about that a little bit, and also the rights and licensing elements that might have happened even again before we get to show day?
Yeah, I won't go down too much of a rabbit hole on this, to be honest, because I don't want to bore everybody, and it's a bit of a minefield. I suppose the summary is that there isn't really any precedent to these types of events. So it sits in a very unique area in law and copyright and IP and performance income and so on and so forth. We've been working really collaboratively with all of the traditional stakeholders, from major labels like Universal, who someone like Dermot Kennedy is signed to, who we're doing a show with next week from the Natural History Museum. All the way through to independent labels, small and large, and then also publishers, PROs. We're in a brilliant collaboration trial period with PRS, because of course, for those of you that know, in the live sector, promoters and venues, of course, have to pay performing rights societies a tariff, a fee, for the use of songs that the performer performs, whether they're their own or another songwriter's work. In the UK, that's 4.5% of gross ticket sales. In the US, it's around 2.5%. It differs in different markets for different things. It's different for festivals as opposed to headline shows. Then there are, of course, different sets of tariffs for broadcast, public performance, streaming, audio streaming, so on and so forth. So this, interestingly, is none of any of the above. It sits in its own lane, really. So we're in a really exciting period to define what that is, and it's going to take a number of months, but everybody's working really collaboratively, which is something that we are really trying to encourage. The music industry historically hasn't been brilliant at working collaboratively. I really hope that kind of positive energy can continue, because we now live in a world, let's face it, where, you know, there's enough to go around, and we all have to look after each other a bit more. And this is an opportunity to define some new constructs and to define some new sets of rules, really. So far we're finding a lot of positivity with that. But the short answer to your question, Tina, is that there aren't really any specific set rules for the way that this type of thing should be handled. So we're really enjoying the process involved in that. From a budget perspective, to your other question, again, all very fresh and all very new. You know, we sit with Amy and her team at DICE, and we work out what the correct ticket value would be. We then tend to reverse engineer the budget a bit. We go through a forecasting process of what we feel an artist can sell in this kind of format. And we do that by looking at historic tour data, streaming data, Google Analytics, merch data, social data, so on and so forth. And we try to attribute that to a figure that we feel is the right target figure for what you can sell in this kind of format. From that basis, we then obviously multiply that by the ticket price and come out with what we feel could be the potential gross. And then you take it from there. So you kind of reverse engineer a little bit. It's a very different process to a normal live show from that perspective, because things tend to get locked in very, very early on. Now, don't forget, you tend to be doing a deal for a live show in the real world a year, 9 months at least, in advance of the event itself. Here we're talking about weeks. We're going on sale 3 or 4 weeks before the event. In some cases, we're not even locking in the final production budget until a week before the event. Now, some people might say that it kind of raises the hair on the back of your necks, because it's a little bit, you know, it's pretty fluid. But there's a lovely, you know, I think a lovely kind of progressive approach to that, because you can adjust things. You know, with Laura, I think, Gio, I'm right in saying we added a camera, didn't we, in the last couple of days before the show, because the sales had gone so well. We'd set a target budget. We were going to deliver the show for that budget, but then we quickly outsold our expectations. So we thought, well, let's spend a bit more money. And so we gave Gio a bit more money, and he got a new shiny camera that he could use. So we ended up, I think, with 5 cameras rather than 4, wasn't it, Gio? Or 6 cameras rather than 5. But so you can do things like that. But similarly, if an artist is more of a developing artist and perhaps they don't sell as well as you think you might set out to do, then you can reduce the budget too. So there's a beautiful fluidity to that.
Great. So I mean, there are so many things that go into the show before the show's happened, and you know, it's so intricate and it's so well thought out. And I'm sure there are bumps along the way, but so we get to show day. If I can go around each of you, what were you doing on the day? How did it feel? Was there anything that we missed? And if you could talk about any differences between the European show and the North American show. If we can start with Brett, you are the venue person. Let's start with you.
Yeah, of course. So on the day, we'd obviously done a lot of sort of like planning beforehand. You know, we just wanted to make sure that we were doing everything that we should be doing, and everybody on site felt safe. You know, so we staggered sort of like arrival times. You know, we briefed people on sort of like the one-way system as well that we had to put in place. You know, and I think it's natural for, you know, when you're working to go and do something instantly, but you know, everybody kind of took everything on board sort of like very, very quickly, and everybody was there to kind of, you know, support one another, and you know, just make sure that we were doing you know, what we were meant to be doing. And obviously at the stage when we were doing that show, you know, the 2 meter distancing was still in place. You know, we had to sort of like wear masks throughout, and you know, make sure that you know, we're kind of sort of like, you know, regularly sort of like washing hands and stuff like that. So so we had that obviously happening on the day. But, you know, aside from that, it was very much what you'd expect from sort of like a normal show in terms of setup. It was just navigating, you know, and just navigating and safeguarding everybody that was working on site. And you know, everybody, like I say, I think because we're lucky and we'd had quite a lot of meetings, and it was during that time as people kind of sort of like mentioned that we were just sort of like just coming out of lockdown, and a lot of those sort of like severe restrictions that had been in place for, you know, the weeks previously, that everybody was so excited to sort of like be on site and to be back working, that, you know, it wasn't sort of like majorly different aside from that distancing and just being aware of your surroundings and everyone around you.
Great, sounds good. Amy, how about you? What was your experience on the day?
So we do obviously most of our work pre-show day, but the interesting thing about streams is that a lot of sales are happening on the day of the show. So we're really focused on retargeting fans who have engaged with the show and saved it or done a remind me and not gone on to purchase. So our kind of emphasis in terms of ticket sales is still really, really strong on that day. Our two priorities are to make sure that the partners are okay, ATC, Laura, and then that the fans know how to access, of course, our comms journey on the day. So in terms of a partner perspective, we have, you know, world-class account managers who are just making sure that everything is in place and ready to go. You know, we will have done multiple tests before it actually goes live. So we're in a really comfortable position when it comes to live day. And then in terms of looking after the fans, it's about making sure that, again, they know how to access the link. And we are really kind of hot on not sharing the link. So all fans now have a very smooth journey through to accessing the show, and it prevents links being distributed. And essentially our comms are triggered from 10 a.m. in the morning with a push notification, and then via email as well, to make sure that people watching via their laptops or accessing via their TV can watch on dice.fm/stream. So essentially we just got this very well-oiled machine that you just press play and it flows. But really we're on hand to make sure that everyone can ask any question they want as we go on, and that we're pushing hard on sales. Yeah.
Super. You guys are making everything sound so easy. It's brilliant.
That's the thing. I think one of the biggest barriers at the moment to managers and agents is the kind of fear of the unknown. So, you know, the more we can create these one-stop shop solutions where you really don't have to think about anything apart from turning up and playing, the better. And that's why this setup has been so fruitful.
Brilliant. And Giorgio, show day, tell us what really happened.
Oh, Gio, you're muted, dude. See, he's good with cameras, he's not very good with sound.
Yeah, that proves that I do nothing. I've got good people around me doing things. So it was also, of course, it was a special day. We were all working for the first time wearing face masks, and of course there were a lot of people that I worked with before, but there were new ones. It was quite funny when I left the venue that I realized that I never saw their faces. So like probably if I meet some of them, I don't even know that we worked together, because of course we were, there was a one-way system. So you would enter the stage from stage right and then exit from stage left. And like everybody was aware that we were not meant to bump into each other in a normal way. But other than that, even if it was a concert without an audience, we still had the pressure of being ready for a certain time, because of course we were going out live. So I knew the set list way in advance, so I'd done my homeworks. We did a few rehearsals while Laura was doing sound check. Of course, there was an element of, from a filming perspective, of, not, I wouldn't say risk, but a little bit of unknown, because the Union Chapel has got windows, like it's got natural lights coming in. And of course, the first show, the one for UK, was pretty much, I think it was around 8 p.m. or 7. So we started with daylight, and then progressively it went into darkness. So the night before we did a pre-light with the director of photography, but we didn't try to replicate exactly the same length of the show. So progressively, as the light was fading outside, we were like adjusting the levels inside the venue, and then I guess also in order to know, I mean, basically I started the gig following all my homeworks, and then as we were getting in, I think it became more of like an organic experience even for me. So it wasn't just about being, okay, next song, Steadicam, and then Dolly. So it was more like what I was feeling and what the light were giving me with the music. I would maybe just decide to use a camera that I wasn't planning to use for that specific song. In fact, the two sets, even if you watch it back to back, even the songs, the identical songs that are in the set list was slightly different between one show and another. Apart from the very beginning and the very end, there are several songs that I capture in a different way because it felt different. Also because like the performance of Laura, it was, I could feel that she was in her zone. Like there was something. Sometimes I work with hundreds of artists, and there are artists that you can watch like 100 gigs in a row. They do always exactly the same thing at exactly the same time, at exactly the same moment, place of the stage. With Laura, it felt a little bit more okay. I know what set list I'm playing, but emotionally, I could see that there was a difference every now and then, and so the two shows felt slightly different. Of course, the second was purely was already dark outside, so it was technically it was different from us. It was when we did the first one, we knew that we nailed it. Like literally, like I finished that thing. I was like, I had the same feeling that Ric said. I was like, this felt. People will think that we both produced it because we didn't even do one mistake in terms of like cutting. So and we were all happy. And then I was like, okay, guys, we're going live again. You know, like I was stressed that people thought that was it, and you can relax. Normally after that moment, you start drinking and you go back home. Actually, we had another one to do, but we made the second one too. So yeah, it went really well.
Super. And Ric, just super quickly, how was your on the day experience?
Perfect. We were holding, me and Brian were there, holding on for dear life, I guess, but ultimately loving every minute of it. And I suppose, slightly expectant of something to go wrong at any moment. There were so many moving parts, as we've talked about. I think the thing that I was most nervous about was the actual streaming protocol itself. So the company that we use called Jack Shoots, who we should also give a big shout out to, an amazing team of guys and girls who have been around for quite a while now, but they provide streaming processes for the I think English National Opera, Royal Opera House, BAFTA, Brits, so on and so forth. So they're amazing at what they do. They do live TV broadcasts, and I don't know why I was nervous about it, but I guess it's just a new area. At any point, could the stream go down? Could the satellite, fuck up or whatever? But even that was faultless. So it was a joy in every way, and down to every single person on the team, Gio and his entire team, Pulse and the entire team, Jack Shoots, Dom, the sound engineer, his assistant. Every single guy, every guy, girl, everyone in the building, Brett, the team at the whole thing, the team at Dice were incredible. They pretty much pivoted their entire company to make live streamed ticketed events a real thing. It was one of those lovely moments that doesn't happen very often in your career. It's just everyone working together and pulling together in the right way, and we got away with it.
You did get away with it, and actually I think I was saying before we got on this panel, what is seemingly maybe classed as a small show is actually a really big deal in the history of live music industry as a whole, international relations, connecting with fans. You know, this little show has done really big things, and it's amazing to talk it all through and understand the intricacies of it all. And just to try and be a bit impartial, I got some opinions from people outside this panel on what they thought of the show, and you're lucky they're all outrageously positive. So just to read a couple of things. I was really impressed. I thought it was an expensive setup, but it seemed absolutely worth it for her. It felt like it was the best it could be. There was a sense of occasion, atmosphere. I'm so glad it was a one-off. I was very skeptical about the experience beforehand, but it was amazing. One of the things that I thought was key to its brilliance was how it was shot. HD, multi-camera, professionally lit. While it cannot match the experience of watching live music, it felt really close, and it was actually quite emotional. So that's from some outsiders, which it makes me feel a bit emotional now. Like, I want to go to a gig. I kind of want to run up to the Union Chapel, knock on the door, and be like, "What can I come see?"
Well, and you know, the cool thing is, because it only happens then, I've got a link, but no one else can see it again. And there's something about that, isn't it? Because that's what live music's about. Once the show's over, that's it. It's done, and that is magic.
It is magic, and we're nearly at the end. So if I can just get maybe one from each person. Again, we'll start with Brett. What's one of the biggest lessons that you've learned from this, or one of the biggest tips that you can give to somebody else that might want to do something like this, whether it's smaller or larger scale?
I think the biggest thing I learned was just having the right team around you and working with the right people. I mean, that was really crucial for us, you know, especially as a venue. You know, a lot of our team are furloughed. So it's very important, you know, having, you know, like Rick and that come in and Pulse and Dice. They just, you know, straight away we just knew, and we only had a couple of weeks to put it off, but straight away, like, I think, you know, kind of like follow your gut, and straight away I knew, like, you know, it was a couple of weeks and it's like, oh, are we going to pull this off? Are we mad? You know, those first couple of days when we're kind of chatting about it, but I just knew that it could work, and you know, there was like no doubt from sort of like speaking and communicating with anyone that it wasn't, and that was purely down to sort of having the right team around you, and that just made everything so much easier. And I'd say also, you know, just use the resources and the facilities that you've got. You know, we got great feedback from sort of like the council and what they needed from us, and you know, we spoke to other people in sort of like the industry and rang around people and just got feedback from them as well, just in case there was anything that, you know, we hadn't thought of. But you know, it was just like, it was such a great experience. And I think, you know, just talk and communicate with people and use the resources that you've got. But the essential thing is making sure it's, you know, you've got the right team in place to be able to put it off. And I think, you know, like being there, and when Laura was on stage, and you know, within like that first, when she hit that first note, and just seeing everything going around you, you know, and it was interesting seeing sort of like that live performance. And then, you know, it wasn't until sort of like after that I was able to see sort of like some of the edit and seeing all the feedback from people and the socials going mad. And you know, straight away you just knew that like something absolutely sort of like wonderful and fantastic had just happened in the venue. And yeah, it was really great.
Yeah, it sounds really special. Amy, how about you?
I'd say biggest learning is recognizing that streaming puts a local show on a global platform. We've gone from selling tickets in 6 countries to 133, and you know, if you approach these shows with a local mindset, you're kind of missing the opportunity to just take creativity to every corner of the earth, you know. So really think about your audience in terms of what the hook is that's driving the show. So how do you make this a special thing for absolutely everyone across the world to see? And in that as well, think very cleverly around how we geo-target and focus on you know, specific territories. We've had, like the Laura show, the 2 for the UK and the US. you can go too far the other way. So don't try and do like city by city live stream tours, because you know, so far they haven't been proven a success. So yeah, think about that global audience, think about that hook, and get creative, basically.
Brilliant. Giorgio, how about you? Any lessons, any tips?
Lessons, I would say, I mean, big thanks to Ric, who's very good on like praising myself and everyone else. But actually, I think that one of the big difference of this project, and the reason why we did it so well, is because we all work together from the start. Like, especially like if you think promoters, artists, management, venue, and us, Pulse Films, the production company, we were always together. Like normally you don't get to work in this way. So it felt like, again, like we were creating something together from scratch to end. And I think that made the difference. Normally doesn't happen to be like that. Like I don't talk to the promoter. I barely talk to the artist unless I'm friend with them before I get to film a show. So I think Ric has been really good in understanding from the start that it was important to be all on the same page and understand what everyone else was needing from the others, if that makes sense.
Great. And Ric, do you want to have the last word on lessons and tips?
Sorry, my son's just come into the room. Just to say, no, everyone's covered everything, and I've said more than enough. But no, you know, many more to come. You know, it's a great new experience for everyone involved, and I encourage everyone to get out there and yeah, push themselves as creatively as they can. And it's exciting from that perspective. It would be remiss of me to say one thing. A little bit of a plug, but given the fact that it's a Scottish music convention we're obviously speaking at, we announced yesterday Biffy Clyro, and that's going on sale, well, pre-sale tomorrow and on sale on Friday. So very excited to be working with those guys, and I know what they're delivering creatively, and it is going to be mind-blowing. So
Biffy shows are always amazing. Can't wait to see that. And sorry, it's remiss of me to give you all the opportunity to plug something. So Ric, it's Thursday night. There is a Nick Cave show.
Thursday night, Nick Cave. Tickets with Dice, of course. Yeah, it's the ticket sales have been phenomenal. Well over 20,000 tickets will do, which is an amazing result. So yeah, that's going to be an incredible event, and it's stunning what Nick and the team, his team have done. Then we have Dermot Kennedy from Natural History Museum next Thursday, the 30th as well. Again, looking like we'll do probably over 25,000 tickets or more for that, which is unbelievable. And the whole team's been brilliant on that as well. So yeah, many more to come, lots to come.
Brilliant. Brett, a quick plug for anything?
Well, just keep an eye on sort of chapel socials and stuff like that. I mean, we're not sure, you know, what's when we're going to reopen again and do sort of like full capacity shows. So yeah, you know, we need your support, and we're really grateful for your support.
We love the energy. Amy,
obviously download Dice, check out what's going on. We've got hundreds and hundreds of shows, and they're, you know, being announced every hour on the hour. So yeah, look forward to joining you virtually for a beer.
Wonderful. And Giorgio, anything for you to plug?
Nothing really. I look forward to the next one.
Giorgio for hire, hot shot.
So don't worry about it. You've got to get back from Italy safely first, though, dude.
Yeah, it's safe over here now.
Wonderful. Well, I think that's the end of our chat. Thank you so much to our panelists for joining us today and giving us the incredible insight into this historical show. I've just got a few things from our brilliant people at Wide Days. So we have got live shows. If you've been enjoying live shows from the comfort of your living room with a beverage, your dancing shoes, and your bestest partner, there are more. The Wide Days convention continues. There are loads of panels, all for your £30 ticket. And we have live music. So you can watch on the Wide Days YouTube. It's filmed closed doors at the Leith Theatre, 7 p.m. BST. And the first showcases are recorded in Scottish venues since lockdown. So making history again right there. Another thing, you can see my bar in the background here. I'll be joining the guys at Wide Days on Saturday with their whiskey social. And there is also a virtual bar where you will find lots of speakers from the convention to continue the conversation with. And I think that's everything for now. Hope you enjoy Wide Days. Follow them on socials, check out the website, and I hope you guys have a brilliant convention and you're staying safe and keeping well. See you next time.